Welcome to another episode of First Down by CoachTools. Today I'm here with Bryan Fetzer. Thanks for coming on, Bryan.
I appreciate it. Excited to be here. It's a great opportunity, I think.
So today, Bryan and I, we're going to be talking about his background and how he ultimately got into his current role at Cincinnati Hills Christian Academy. So to kick things off, Bryan, can you just share with the audience a little bit about your background and how you've ultimately gotten into your current role?
Sure. I was a college coach for 23 years, Harvard, Virginia, Mississippi State, Cal Berkeley, in the sport of track and field. I actually started my coaching career off coaching junior college football at Ranger Junior College in Texas, which was honestly one of, like, looking back, one of the best experiences of my life. I've done a lot of consulting in sports performance and facilities, globally, and I own my own or part ownership of a nutrition company called Iron Faith Nutrition.
Very
So,
cool.
all those kind of things. I decided to get out of coaching at the college level in 2019. A lot of people probably think abruptly. It was just time to be done with it, and left that after 23 years. And put some emphasis into our nutrition company. Spent a lot of time kind of helping to go to an e-commerce platform and doing consulting through there. And lo and behold, there was this thing called the pandemic that happened at that exact time. And then helped Paul Doyle and Doyle Management start the American Track League, which is the first professional track league in the United States. We got that launched, hit that straight during the middle of the pandemic. I was doing some broadcasting for ESPN, ESPN Plus, and some other things as well. Really, I'm a jack of all trades, I think, and a master of nothing. Is probably the best way to put it. And the opportunity came. I'm from Cincinnati. From a high school standpoint, that's where I went to high school. My mother lived in Cincinnati still, so the opportunity, the role came up at CHCA at Cincinnati Hills Christian Academy, and they wanted to do some things a little different than a typical high school. Dean Nicholas, who just became the head of school, kind of wanted to look and think about shifting it more into a kind of a collegiate kind of look. So I was definitely not a traditional hire, and my wife would definitely say I was ready to be in a little more structured environment than than kind of the freelance stuff and everything. It was a chance to build build and take some knowledge from the college level and put it into high school. And boy, I'll tell you what, talk about a wide open experience. It's definitely been.
Yeah. So tell me more about that experience. Like what lessons have you learned from your 20 years of college coaching that you apply now?
Well, I mean, one was kind of getting structure set. I mean, the CHCA is such a unique situation because it has youth sports all the way up to high school, so junior high. And as you kind of do some deep dive into some analytics of other schools, I mean, really, you know, I mean, that's the unicorn in the room. That doesn't happen. Most high schools are just high schools, but having to oversee the youth space, the junior high space, and the high school space, it takes a great team. And fortunately, the staff at CHA that's assembled for athletics is phenomenal. Ryan Betcher became our athletic director. Um, Matt Eshe was our junior high, essentially our junior high athletic director. Tony Schultz was, our kind of oversaw the admissions and kind of the compliance part, kind of taking an NCAA kind of view of it with the OHSA rules. And then Amy Lutz, she's kind of the master of everything behind the scenes. She does all the operations. And then we have, two sport performance, Andrew Peterson and Quinn Collison, our sport performance individuals. And then Andrew Cleaves is our sports medicine person. So it's actually, for a high school or for a academy, it's a pretty large staff, but still, when you think about all that goes into it, it's very understaffed.
Yeah. So how many students do you have in total?
There's 1,300 pre-K through 12, or right around 1,300. We've got a bunch of waiting lists now. The school is really taking a transformation on that standpoint, but it's been very exciting.
Yeah. No, it really sounds like it. And So for the audience listening today, so Bryan and I, we got introduced through a mutual connection, and
Yeah.
um, so we no both, or I'm not sure if you know. Do you know Sean Clifford?
I been passing, but don't really know him very well. No.
Okay,
I know he went to CHA through 8th grade and then
yeah,
got swiped to a school across the way in Cincinnati, St. X. But I've heard nothing but incredible things about him. Even my friends with the Packers say great things about him.
yeah. So I was just gonna say, so I know a little bit about the Cincinnati area just through Sean, and then our mutual
Mhm.
connections there. But no, really cool background, and then going kind of backtracking a little bit to Iron Faith Nutrition. So what are some things that you've learned from that experience as well that you've also applied to, being a leader in high school sports?
Be prepared for things to be slow at times, and be ready to ride the roller coaster. It's one of those situations. I mean, you're gonna have your highs and your lows, um, and you should always be, looking for what's next. Um, Iron Faith Nutrition has taught me a lot. When I bought into the company back in 2018, is when we officially, bought the company. I had no idea. Honestly, I really had no idea what I was doing as an entrepreneur, and have kind of learned along the ways. And I think that kind of really parallels with high school. You really don't know what you're getting into. As a coach, as an administrator, every school is very different, and you have to be able to adjust and be able to adjust on the fly. Um, you know, Iron Faith, we've taken our hits. With the pandemic, we kind of saw a big spike because everybody was buying things online. But then on the downside, once it ended, a lot of mom and pop shops which carried our stores went out of business for good. So you kind of rode that high wave of, okay, yeah, we're getting into the market, we're doing things, and then it kind of petered off, and we had to kind of start, kind of building things back up. Um, I have found out that there is a lot of misconceptions out there when it comes to nutrition and what's good. And I think we've, as a society, saw a lot of misinformation that gets put out about whatever it might be. And it's just kind of really learning the facts a lot more,
Yeah,
and doing your own research. I think that is so vital.
yeah,
Don't just because somebody on the television station said you should do X or Y, you should do it. And I think that goes back to high school too, with the whole recruiting process for kids. Just because, Network S says, this school is great, things can be manipulated. And I know
right.
as a college coach, we're trying to sell. So we're trying to tell you all the good things about a program. You got to do your own research, and you got to do a real research, not just, you know, what's popular on TikTok or YouTube or any of the other kind of things.
Yeah. And it's cool. I talk about this a lot too, just how sports are the perfect microcosm for life and
Mhm.
entrepreneurship too. Because,
Absolutely.
with me getting like going directly from playing to being an entrepreneur, those understanding like, hey, you're gonna have highs and you're gonna have lows, but it's about never getting too high and never getting too low when those things do
Right.
happen. And one of my mentors, who he was my high school coach, he's also done USA football, Aaron Brady. He always talks about, just never getting too like excited about something or getting too down on yourself, and it's never
Right.
as good or as bad as you think it might be. um so yeah, that just sparked that thought when you started talking about your
Yeah.
experience.
And then you got to think about what's the end goal. I mean, what are you trying to do? Um, if I was trying to, be the next Jeff Bezos and you know, roll the Amazon world, that might be it's a total different thing. That's not my goal. My goal with the company was to help people, to provide something that is different, that's an alternative to something else they might be taking, that is you know holistic in nature and a lot more natural than what some of the other junk we put in our bodies. So it's not like, hey, we're not trying to do a Ponzi scheme, get rich quick.
Yeah.
But some people, that's what they get in entrepreneurship for. They think, hey, you know what? I want to make $1 million. Well, that's great if that's what you want to do.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Money is a way that runs things to a certain extent, but you have to know what your ultimate goals are, what you're trying to accomplish with whatever endeavor you step forth and start into.
Yeah. And that's also, that just made me think about my recruiting experience specifically, because with me, I was an undersized defensive lineman going out of high school. So I wasn't going to get recruited to play, and I never got any scholarships to play Division I football. And obviously from there, my chances of playing the NFL were probably slim to none at that point.
Right, right.
Um, so going into it, I had some mentors in high school that were able to give me that perspective and help me begin with
Right.
the end in mind. And as I started to look at schools, I was looking at the Centennial Conference, like Gettysburg College, Dickinson College,
Mm.
Franklin and Marshall. So those were some great programs. And obviously, I ended up at Gettysburg, which turned out to be the best situation for me. So that's another thing too, to just relate it to the sports audience, is like,
Oh,
just know what your goals are, because
you know,
education was mine.
well, and one of the things that I spoke at nauseum about to recruits is you got to find the right fit. I mean, it's all about the fit. Don't get into the fab and the famous this and that. Find your fit, because I mean, probably the one of the biggest coaching mistakes I ever made. I was leaving Cal Berkeley and I was going to Mississippi State, right? So two, you know, Power Five, conference schools, um, both brought things to the table, and we had just had incredible success at Cal Berkeley and had some incredible recruiting classes. Well, I made the mistake of recruiting the same kind of kids that I was recruiting at Cal to Mississippi State, which, I don't know how much you know about those two schools, but they ain't anywhere close to being similar to each other from an academic standpoint or just even a personality standpoint. And I was getting so frustrated because I was recruiting the wrong fit, as opposed to recruiting the kid that fit Mississippi State the best. And once we figured that out, I mean, we made an incredible jump, got in the top 20. And it was something that I kept in mind that whole time. And I can think of an individual when I recruited at Cal, um, incredible athlete, phenomenal individual, one of the best in the country, you know, wasn't a good fit for the school. But, you know, when you're trying to win, when you're trying to do things, sometimes you do, you kind of push the limit. And that person got there, did not have success that they could have until they got out of it. And then they made an Olympic team, you know,
Wow.
so, the fit is such an important, part of life to understand. And if you understand what your fit is and where your fit is, it can help you out in recruiting, or, if you're a college athlete or a high school athlete looking into college, or even if you're a coach looking to be, on a high school staff. Do you fit that staff? Do you fit that personnel? Just because, you know, so and so is an incredible, coach, are you going to fit them?
Yeah.
I mean, knowing people that worked with Urban Meyer, incredible coach. Hear incredible things about him, but he's tough.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And maybe that's not your role. Maybe that's not what you're supposed to do. So, I mean, I would just encourage anybody that that's listening, that is in the coaching business or and just in the regular business world. Um, know your fit before going after a job that you think is a great job, because it might not be a good fit for you.
Yeah. And that always goes back to just knowing yourself and knowing what you're good at,
Yeah, very
and
much so.
also knowing what you want to be good at. Cause, you know, I think there's also things that you're able to work on and improve within yourself. For example, like communication skills. And
Yes.
at the same time, there's other things that people are just naturally better at. So 100% agree with that.
No, absolutely. My dad was a high school football coach in Pennsylvania. I grew up in Johnstown.
Okay,
Um,
nice.
that wonderful, amazing city, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, Flood City, USA. You're
Mhm.
familiar with. I don't know if you've drifted out to the western part of the state too much.
Yeah, a couple times I've driven through it, but never officially like been in the town.
You blink and you miss it. Great place though, but it's a blue collar town. It's tough, and I remember, my dad giving me an example of perspective on success. That he would coached at a Johnstown Botech. It doesn't even have sports anymore. In fact, I don't think it even exists anymore. And they won district championship there in football. And if you look back at the school's overall historical winning percentage, they won it like 6% of their
Wow.
games. And he won 47% of his games. Okay. Well, if you look at that, the outside looking and go, man, you only won 47% of your games. You did a crappy job. That's terrible. You're a losing coach. But if you look at it prospectively, that's astronomically different than what the historical view of that school is. He did an incredible job. And
Yeah.
I think, coaching, we get caught up on the wins and losses all the time. That's what sports about.
Yeah.
But you got to keep things in perspective. What somebody does at Alabama for football, losing 3 games at Alabama is a lot different than losing 3 games at, Temple. You go through a season at
Right.
Temple and you lose 3 games, a heck of a year. You lose 3 games at Alabama,
Oh yeah.
you're probably not going to be there much longer.
Right.
So that perspective and that fit, when you're going to coach, you got to know those things. Some people can do those miraculous turnarounds, but man, most of the time it's not the case.
Yeah. No, it's great advice there. As we're kind of wrapping up here, Bryan, any last words you wanted to share with the audience?
No, keep things in perspective. I think that's, after what I'm just talking about teams and stuff like that, you got to keep things in perspective and don't be afraid to fail. Uh, I mean, we all fail. We all will fail. It's really about getting back up and kind of doing things. And I think if you have that mindset as a coach, it's going to go a long ways. Just, being persistent and just, I hate that the grind word because I do it too much, but you got to know, you just got to keep getting back up when you fail.
Yeah. Well, it's cliche, but it's true. So
It
I
is.
appreciate that.
It's
Yeah.
so true. It's so true. I'm excited, doing this, doing the podcast and getting some information out to people. I think that's really important. And you guys' company, I think, is on a fast rise. It's got a lot of good pluses to it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're really excited to be able to do this and just talk with coaches around the country and people like yourself who are also involved in the industry, because the way I look at it is like people's experiences other people can definitely learn from. So my goal
Right.
with this is to provide value to the coaching community, to the sports community, and anybody who's interested. So
Well, shoot, if I can help anybody out, that's what the Lord put me in this position for. So, they can hit me up on LinkedIn, hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it might be, and I would be more than willing to have a conversation, especially with young coaches that are trying to understand the business of what it's all about. How do you get a job? How do you get into it? It's probably a lot different than what they think.
great. Well, yeah, thank you again, Bryan, and likewise.
Absolutely.
If anybody needs help or anything, happy to help them too. Thanks.
Absolutely. Justin, thank you so much for letting me come on.
Yep. Thank you, Bryan.
All righty. Bye.